Hi guys, this is Seth Christensen with the Got Any Cows podcast. 20 years ago, I was an 11-year-old kid with 2 bucket calves. Today, we have sent genetics from our company to 40 of the 50 states and 12 countries around the world. I still learn more every day, and I invite you to learn along with me. Well, I'm here with my good buddy, John LaRue, to record another Got Any Cows podcast. We are doing what we do best and just winging it. Figuring it out as we go. So today the last time John and I were together to record a podcast, we went over the last auction we had. And then time passes really, really, really fast. We've released multiple podcasts since. And now it's time for another auction. A month or two goes by in a hurry. We've got another auction coming up. And so we'll get into that a little bit later in the podcast. But what's the latest for you, buddy? What have you been up to in the last month, other than just twiddling your thumbs and hanging out with little to nothing to do, which is how most of our days are. Yeah. What have you been up to?
Well, the highlight of my month would probably be give my wife a good happy birthday. We threw a little surprise birthday party for her, which she didn't think I was capable of doing anymore.
You nailed it. You
so
did so
that
good.
That was probably the highlight of my month personally, was keeping the wife happy and surprising her and giving her a little present she was excited about. So that was fun. My daughter, Lydia, also had a birthday. They're pretty close together, so both had a good time with their birthday party. So that was probably the number one thing I had to take care of last month, was taking care of my girls.
Yeah,
so,
nailed it.
Cows come second to them. Right, so we got them taken care of. And then, then it's just been cow stuff. So we've been breeding and preg checking. We've got a lot of cows bred really early this year, earlier than we've ever had. So we've been doing a lot of preg checks, syncing, been doing tons and tons of implanting, like multiple times a week. Yep. Had the embryologist here. We've hauled a cow to him to get implanted, and doing aspirations and flushing and still heavy breeding, but it's slowed down a little bit because we have so many cows pregnant now. Yep. So that's been pretty awesome, and it's just still feeding and strawing and dealing with sick calves or cows or whatever, all the fun parts of this time of year, which luckily we've had a pretty mellow winter. So this winter's, I can't complain at all about the weather we've had.
It's been great.
It's been warm. So
that's
been great. Had a whole string of new vet techs that are wanting to come and put their hours in here with us. Yeah. So getting some of the new vet techs here and lined out and started and training them up on how to open a gate or close a gate or cut some
the more technical aspects.
Cut some twine off of hay bales.
We do teach them things.
Yes.
Somebody from Bridgerland's going to watch this and be like, "What did they even do there?"
How to give shots.
We try not
to make
present for AI and embryo transfer and ultrasound and synchronization.
Yep. They're here for a lot of that, but. A lot of them come with little to no experience with cows or large animals at all. So it's a steep learning curve for some of these kids that come through. So I forget how difficult some things can be until you teach someone that has no clue about it or never been around any of it. So it's like, I forget, we got to start all the way over from scratch and go over all these simple things and basic things, safety things, So, and that's important thing that I forget to do sometimes. We have so many new people come through. I forget, you don't stand on that side of the gate, stand on this side of the gate. Yeah. So just same old of just chasing the cows around everywhere. So. Yeah. How about you? You haven't been doing much at all, I don't think so.
Nothing. Like most of the time, when people are like waiting for hours for a response from me, it's usually just because I'm napping.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not doing anything. You know what I mean? Most of the time, I'm just like, I want to make people wait. So I just, kind of twiddle my thumbs, maybe like play a computer game. Yeah. That's most of what I'm doing.
That's what everyone thinks. Like all the neighbors, everyone's like, well, why isn't
Seth outside? Just playing computer games, taking naps,
No, you've been outside a lot. You've been out checking heats in the pens multiple times a day. And you've been catching a lot of sick animals and helping us out outside a lot. You've been doing some AI dying and donor work and
right. Right.
So yeah, you've had to come outside a little bit lately. So.
Yeah. I mean, there's a slight, there's some tone to my skin. You know what I mean? We've gone from deathly white to only almost dead white. And I've been outside a little. Yeah. So the December and January for me, in the capacities or the roles that you and I take on and the work we do, December and January is the heaviest overlap for me because year round. It's my job to make sure the cattle are sold, just like preparing this auction and things like that and answering people's questions and taking care of the clients we deal with. That's constant. That happens all year round. But the breeding, as it relates to getting all these embryos put in and the embryos made and all of the different moving pieces that involves, that there's some of that out and throughout the year, but it is heaviest by far in December and January, by far. So, of course, naturally, right on top of Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's and cold weather and so on and so forth. And so, well, you're like you'd mentioned, I mean, we've been really fortunate. We've made a lot of pregnancies quickly, and been really lucky to get a lot of embryos in and turn them into a lot of pregnancies. And it's always fun and exciting, to be there shoot side when we're running cattle through the new silencer, which is great. Thoroughly enjoyed that and seeing those pregnancies come through. Because I mean, it's a ton of work and it's fun now at this point too, historically, if you're to back up by a handful of years, most of the pregnancies we were making, it may be like a donor female we'd purchased and or semen we'd purchased, and you're trying to make a neat calf for yourself. But it is fun in at this point in time, a lot of the donors are animals that were bred, born, and raised here. And a lot of the studs that we're flushing to were bred, born, and raised here. And that's a neat thing. That's a fun thing. It's been an enjoyable thing to kind of see the fruits of our labors in that sense, as far as having that degree of confidence in the animals that are born and raised here, that they're as good or better than anything else we could get in the marketplace to use for our next generation. And I've enjoyed that. That's been fun.
I like that the ones that we've, calved and raised here and bred here aren't usually the ones trying to kill us.
Right.
A lot of these outside ones that we've brought in, they come in pretty hot.
There's
Not all of them,
hot.
but there are more that come in that are hot and fast, mean, gonna run you up the fence than the ones that we calve, raise, handle here all the time. They're a lot, but we still have the oddball here, here and there that are a little bit not still. There's still a few of those, but overall, they're way nice.
That's
really
I
good.
mean,
really excited about them.
When I'm looking at priorities on how to mate them, I mean, that is priority one. Because right now, I mean, and it's always interesting to chat with people, because if someone's only been around a couple of Akiushi animals, they may have only been around a couple of mellow ones and just assume, well, the breed's mellow. And or you'll have there's people that say, oh yeah, the whole breed's mellow, or yeah, great dispositions or whatever. No, as a breed, there is a problem there. And I say that as an Akiushi breeder. Like, I have a vested stake in the success of the Akiushi breed. I mean, we've invested a lot of money there, a lot of time there, a lot of effort there. But I think to say that there is no issue, or there's no problem, or they're already perfect, is to perpetuate the issue, right? Or to continue to have those problems, or continue to incorporate those in a breeding program. And so, I mean, it is priority one right now on all the different animals, because there's all sorts of different animals we have that are good in one way or good in another, or bring some genetic breadth, or bring in some different traits, but they have got to be mellow. We have got to get to where they are safe to handle, because if they're not safe to handle for us and or anyone that purchases from us, everything else kind of flies out the window. And so that's a target. That's a big deal for me. I love the Akiushi breed, very excited about them, working hard to make them better. But to claim they're already perfect would mean that there's no room for improvement, Right. And as with any animal, they are imperfect, and there's room for improvement. And we're focused on, I want people, when they buy cattle here, specifically Akiushi, that they'll have a better experience with those animals as far as how they are to handle versus anywhere else they could get them, because we've gotten them from about everywhere. And I'm confident the next generation of cattle we're breeding, each generation should be better. And are they all going to be perfect? No. There's still going to be animals that are more nervous or more flighty, or there's always more room for improvement. Sure. But that's a huge target in all the work we've just done these last couple months, is to get them to slow down and not be flighty, nervous, or aggressive in any way.
Yeah.
So.
No, I feel like the breeds, the animals we've bred are coming along that way.
Yeah, making progress for sure.
Yeah, I couldn't help but think about our facilities now. Describing the cows, and our facilities are kind of the same way. Our facilities here started out really bare bones, like it was a struggle to get cows into the barn.
Sure. Yeah,
not even talking about getting them into a chute.
Yeah.
But now, we had that preg check yesterday. I mean, man, what we did yesterday would have taken us at least a full day to get done, and we did it in a few hours. And me and Aaron are out there, and we're just like, well, what are we gonna do the rest of the day? Like we got this big preg check today, but it's not until the afternoon, and we shouldn't even start on sorting yet. Man, it was pretty cool to see the progress we've made facilities wise, and I'm excited to see more of the progress with the genetics that we're using, and see those changes, and just see them develop, into these animals that we're hoping for, and it's real. Like see some of those calves out there right now, and you can already tell they'll come up to the fence and they want to sniff you and lick you and follow you around. And it's like, man, these are awesome calves coming.
Yeah. Well, so, I think if I had to describe, I guess our program genetically and where we're at and where we're going, you mentioned just the term real, and I think it's really easy to get overly caught up in, and I would say, even for me historically, it's easy to get overly caught up in just EPDs or just pedigrees or just the paper says they're cool. I love when the cattle are actually just real. If someone comes and in person, we're not saying, oh yeah, the disposition's great, or we're not saying, well, this pedigree's great, so that's awesome, And don't get me wrong, those are still important tools. We still use pedigrees to make better cattle. We still use EPDs to make better cattle. It's not like we've just thrown the baby out with the bathwater. But the cattle are real. Like if someone really wants animals that are actually better mannered, that are actually easier breeding, actually easier to calve, actually heavier at weaning, that have real marbling and real longevity to go with them, and not just, well, they should be because the pedigree or the EPDs say so. This is where they need to come. And I'm confident in that because, like you said, we go out and we see it. We live it. We're in it all day, every day, and it's fun. It's fun to watch it come along and an exciting thing to see.
Yeah.
For sure. So,
well, that's probably enough of our update, I guess.
Yeah, day to day.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some people here wondering and waiting for us to get talking about the auction. So,
I
know we haven't talked about what's coming up. So once again, I'm kind of going to this blind. So
you're
gonna have to fill me in on what we're selling this time.
Yeah. Well, and it's always just like I mentioned with all the people that reach out and that I talk to on a day to day basis, it always changes over and over again as far as what are we going to put in the auction, because every time I get another phone call that says, hey, I need this, or hey, I need that, or we do another private treaty deal. Every time a calf is born, every time a calf is sold, every time an embryo is made, every time a bull makes semen, every time we use up semen or embryos or whatever else, the inventory available changes and it shifts. And so assembling an auction lineup is like a living, breathing kind of a process. Like it's I think I've got it dialed. And then I'll have somebody call me like, oh, I'd be looking for something about like this. And maybe they're kind of on the fence as to what they'll get, but they know they want something generally, with these traits or bred this way, or just generally they want a female versus an embryo or semen package or whatever.
Sure.
And so then I think, well, we need to make sure we have something representative or that would appeal to that individual. And it does it. It all changes all the time. So obviously, I'll put the same asterisk on this episode as on the other that we could add to. We could do some super quality voiceover work, like I did last time, where to be fair, last time I botched a couple pedigrees, and so we had to voice over those. But then too, it was like right up till the sale goes live and opens up, it's like, there's a lot to add, there's a lot to remove, there's things that are in flux all the time. But
and you put a lot of information in it too, so it takes time
we try to make it informative.
That much information on all the lots and everything in it too. I mean, You're busy just doing that. Right.
Well, and I have to give credit as well to Haley. I'm really, really grateful for her help, because historically, an auction assembly, it's always been kind of the goal to do an auction about once a quarter. Usually that turns into I get one done 2 to 3 times a year, just because things just like December, January happen where, we're making embryos 1,000,000 miles an hour. There just isn't time, for me to get it done, even if I'm intending to. And I give Haley huge points because she helped me with this last auction. And we've got, our auctions mapped out for the upcoming year. We've got plans on timelines for things like assembly, for things like emails to go out, for things like ads to go out, for things, as far as getting it to the auction administrator, all those different pieces that are part of assembling an auction and then closing out an auction, getting all the invoices sent, payments received, live and frozen lots shipped. A lot of moving pieces with these auctions, and Haley has done wonderfully at helping me through that first auction of this year, and hopefully we'll be doing a lot more consistent auctions, just because I do have kind of some help there, some support there, so that if I am just answering the phone all day or breeding cows all day or taking naps and playing computer games all day, then it still gets done, because I've got Haley's help backing me up on that front. And so grateful for her and appreciate her work. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to assembling these auctions, I guess the other thing I had to mention, looking at this last one, it is always fun for me to see on these auctions. There's always things that go above where I expected them to, and there's always things that go below where I expected them to. And I think both those things are good. Obviously when things go above where we expect, for us, it's rewarding. It's exciting for me, especially, on things like bulls we've bred and owned and
Sure.
collected. It's fun and rewarding for me to see people compete. It is a fair market environment. It's as capitalist gets, to say like, okay, you guys set the price. You know what I mean? When you guys quit competing, then you can have it, and it's rewarding for me to see some of those prices go higher and things like that. And it's true price discovery. You know what I mean? It's not an arbitrary number that I pulled out like, well, they're worth X or they're worth Y. Oh man, whatever.
Right.
I'm like, no, I'm not saying it. It's whatever two competing buyers decide, that's where it lands. But then even these ones that do go lower, that obviously, I'd love to have stuff sell for more as it relates to our business. But when they go lower, I feel like people are kind of getting paid for being on the seats. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
like all of my friends and clients and people that I consider them friends. All these people that I'm on the phone with all day, every day, helping build herds, they showed up.
You always call him buddy.
Yeah.
Always, hey, buddy.
Hey, buddy. It's true.
Buddies with everybody.
Right, we're just friends, I'm a friendly guy, okay?
Hey, buddy.
Hey, buddy. It is. I am glad that my buddies, get good buys, and even though, like I said, it's those lots that go higher, maybe it's an added benefit for us. The lots that go cheaper than what I would have set them at or where I'd have retailed them, that's a win for the guys that show up and bid. And so, I have to, I guess, repeat myself a little from the last time. Like, it's worth getting on and getting those bids in. You know what I mean? Because there's people that get on early, that get bids in early, that get great buys. And there's people, even the ones that do wait till the last second, they get on and they get great buys. You know what I mean? Like, this last auction, there was a neat combination of both. There were people that got some really great buys, and there were some things that traded significantly above where I expected them to. And so it's fun on both fronts to see that come to be. So anyway, this upcoming auction, March 5th is the sale date. So it comes up so fast. All of it moves so fast. Like, in my head, I'm like, we just barely had an auction. I'm like, no, that's been 6 weeks ago by the time this one runs. And it happens fast. And so we are going to open this auction again with a bred heifer. And so just giving people, and I should say again, we're going to have a bred heifer again. Last time we opened with an aspiration, which I should jump into that for a second and just mention that was the first time we'd offered that. And it went well, and it was fun. And I actually, come to think of it, as I'm just thinking through that. So lot 1 last time was E133. E133, that aspiration sold, brought $22.50 to Reed Brasher, is who got that bought. And Reed was thrilled to find out today. I just passed along the day 6 predictions from the lab. We're going to have at least 15 transferable embryos off that aspiration. Great. That is a screaming deal. Any way really you slice it, that is a screaming deal. So Reed's into that aspiration, $22.50 plus semen and lab costs. Yep. And he's getting at least 15 embryos, and so there were 15 qualities, 3 low quality embryos on the day 6 prediction. So we'll get final numbers tomorrow, but it was fun to offer that, you know what I mean? We'd never offered aspirations, but then to offer it, to have the market respond favorably, to sell it. And then there again, we got the dollars we wouldn't have otherwise gotten without offering that product. Yeah. And Reed's getting a screaming deal. Yeah. That's a judo cow. Took her to Rushaw 2, so she's going to have a Rushaw 2 over judo embryos, and he's in them $22.50, and there's 15 of them. So yeah, kind of a neat deal there, kind of fun. And actually, this is another one of those things, as these auctions come to be, I mentioned kind of how they're living, breathing things. It's kind of an organic process. Reed mentioned to me, he said, hey, do you have any recips that we could stick these in? And I said, well, normally we don't. All of the recips that we have here, the intent is for us to put our embryos in them.
Yeah.
And that's generally what we do is we say, well, it's just our embryos, because there's, generally speaking, in the market at large, there's a lot more embryos than there are available recips. And I don't want to put in just any embryo if I don't know if the embryo is going to be good.
Right.
I don't want to waste our time and money and effort and feed and recips on bad embryos.
Sure.
But I thought in this setting, these are embryos that Reed bought here, and he supported us, and we know those embryos are made here, and so we know the quality is controlled. I know, you took the cow to the lab. We're going to get the embryos from the lab. They've never been in anybody else's custody. It's not a question of quality of lab or shipping.
Or recips.
Or whatever. Yeah.
We know the recips are good. They've been on our mineral program. We know what they are.
Well, and you and I sorted them. I mean, every single one of those cows to enter this program, they don't show up just like, well, here's an open cow who passed some health tests.
Right.
Like every one of those cows, one at a time.
Right.
You and I put them in a box. And if they're a pig to deal with, they're out of the box and back on a trailer. They don't come here if they're not good quality animals. And so, and we know, the age of those animals. We know the vac status. We know the background. We know the source. We track.
And their age being young.
Yes, they're young,
exactly.
They're good young cows. Right. And they're known commodities. Yeah. They're not just like, well, that cow came through a sale ring and she looked young and she passed some health tests and she's nuts, but we're going to put an embryo on anyway. We'll leave that nameless, but anyway, there's other sources of recips that wouldn't be the same as ours, and that's why generally ours only get our embryos, right? Yeah. I did open up that option to Reed to put in a couple of those embryos from that aspiration, and that is something we're going to do again in this auction. And in this auction, that's actually going to be part of the lot. You're not going to have the obligation to buy our recips. If someone just wants embryos and has their own recips, that's great. Mm-hmm. But people have asked a lot of times for access to our recips. I have said no to a lot of good buddies. Said no, sorry, those recips are for us. We don't have very many left. There's not very many left, And that's one of those I got lucky. And I'm like, you know what? We have been really fortunate, really blessed. We have been able to get a lot of our embryos in. Yeah. We have got a lot of pregnancies established. We've done well above expectations, I guess. So we have what we need, and that doesn't mean. So now we've got these cows that are quality cows, that are young cows, that are known cows. They've had every data point there could be tracked on them. I mean, all these cows have a pile of notes to them. We don't need all of them. I don't need every single cow that we have to carry our embryos when we got this many pregnant this fast on the front end. And so I am going to open up the option if somebody wants to take embryos from an aspiration purchased in the auction. That will come with the option on recips. They may or may not choose to employ it. They may or may not want to do that at all. But it's an option that's been asked for, and we're going to offer it.
That's a sweet deal because then it makes us do all the labor too.
Right, we're doing everything. We're doing
implanting
everything.
them.
Right.
That's a big deal because most people aren't set up like we are and don't know what they're doing and don't know how to get the embryos to stick. And
it's challenging. It's hard. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like we've been beaten to death enough times to know it's hard. Yeah. It's not.
It's so much work.
Oh, and it's just there's so many variables. Yeah. Every time you think you've got it all controlled, like we're going to nail it every single time. It ebbs and it flows, and we've been blessed with some stellar success rates this year. But even out of our groups, there was one that was under the others. You know what I mean? And wasn't as good. And so it's a challenging process to try to get embryos turned into pregnancies. That's usually the bigger hiccup. Like getting
the embryos is easy.
Getting embryos is not hard. Yeah. You know what I mean? Get a cow, buy a bunch of semen, call up any given embryo production company. You can make embryos. Right. Getting them turned into calves is a whole nother deal. Yep. So anyway, so we are going to offer that option on those aspirations. So again, excited about the last auction and all of what it did, but on this auction, we're going to open it with a bred heifer. So lot 1 is going to be a bred heifer. So kind of coming back around full circle, this is a female that was produced in our embryo program. So we did all the work to make the embryos, to calve the embryos, raise the embryos. Now she's mature. She herself is pregnant.
You haven't told me which one yet.
Yeah, I haven't told you which one. She is red. Yeah, yep.
So that's good.
And she is sired by the original import Big Al, and so that would make her desirable in that sense as well. And then her dam is the 021E donor. Okay. I'm just pulling up records right now because it changes every day, and we just had a preg check, so I'm just going to double check myself on breed status. But yeah, she is confirmed pregnant. She is due to calve September 20th with a heifer calf. sired by Star-Lord. And so that baby is going to be a Katie LaRue grandson. So that pedigree, so the tag number on that heifer is 3428. 3428 is going to bring together Big Al on the top side of the pedigree, 021E, who's a Namiko female on the bottom side of the pedigree. And then she's bred carrying a heifer calf. So you're getting 2 females in, and she's confirmed pregnant due to calve September 20th. So an ideal calving time frame. And that's going to put together the Katie LaRue cow into the pedigree, the Big Al bull, and the 021E Namiko female. And so to get all those things together, and that's an AWA registered female. And so there again, people will have all sorts of different preferences as far as where they register their cattle. The American Wagyu Association is the hardest to get papers in. And so if you have those papers, it's easy, quick and easy. If you want Australian papers or American Akaushi, not a problem. The inverse isn't necessarily true. So if you have the AWA papers, you're kind of set. We can get whatever else done a person wants. So that female, the biggest benefit, if somebody takes a look at lot 1 as to why you would want that female, number 1 is just timelines. And so that's a mature female as opposed to a scenario where it's like, well, I'm getting embryos that become pregnancies, that become calves, that need to be raised, that need to be bred. All that's already been done. So you're basically buying time. A person is buying back 1 or 2 years on their production timeline and is getting a more aggressive timeline there. You've got a heifer calf coming, so you're kind of getting a 2-for-1. When a person's figuring out what can I afford to spend on a female like this, it is a 2-for-1. You're getting a mature heifer and you're getting a heifer calf. A third thing to look at here is that this female does come with free delivery included anywhere in the continental U.S. She'll show up to your ranch gate. You'll have communication with the driver the whole way through. And so to be able to go kind of jump right to the front, instead of having to do what we did, which was secure the donor, secure the semen, make the embryos, make the pregnancies, get a female versus a male, calve her out, raise her up, get her bred, confirm it's a heifer calf, and then drag her across the country. It's all done. And so that will be the benefit of lot 1 there on the 3428 female. And I'm just pulling up my notes now to give you the most recent stuff. Anything you would throw in across the board on 020 or Big Al would be like the sire of 919. Anyway, anything you want to throw in before I jump to the next lot?
That just should be good.
Yeah.
I'm at the point now. I'm like, just about anything with Katie LaRue in it is. You got a pretty good shot of having a good animal there.
Right. They say that heifer calf is exciting, and Star-Lord's not available to open market, and so you're getting one of the first heifer calves from Star-Lord.
Yeah.
And
I mean, everyone knows Big Al. Most people know Big Al. I mean, he's good.
Very well known.
These are all. It's all good cattle right there. So
Right.
I wouldn't be scared to recommend it to anybody.
Right.
Like it's an animal that I would buy myself.
Right. Yeah. You bet. Yep. The next one in the sale, jump into a bull, and so anybody that already has some females that they're looking to get bred, whether they're looking to run a meat program and trying to get the very best quality beef they can, or running a purebred program and just looking for a cleanup bull to take care of getting those cattle bred. The 134M bull calf is going to be lot 2. So he is a Tama Maru son, so he'd be sired by an original import there. And then his mother is the D40 female, D40 being a triple Dai-10 female. So what makes her unique, Dai-10 Mitsumaru would be the sire of Big Al. He'd be the sire of Katie LaRue. He'd be the sire of Himawari, the sire of Hitomi, the sire of a series of these foundation animals. And for us, most notably, Katie LaRue. For most people, probably most notably Big Al, as far as the one they're most familiar with. But, a breed legend. There's no two ways about it. And this female is triple bred Dai-10, being a Big Al daughter, and so he's a Dai-10 son, over a Hikari daughter, and Hikari's a Dai-10 son, over Kunisaki, and Kunisaki's a Dai-10 daughter. And so you've got 3 shots of the Dai-10 bull. So very intentionally line bred. And line breeding, is one of those things that people will argue. Some people say, oh, well, it's all about keeping the COI down, or got to keep that inbreeding coefficient down. And, inbreeding is all about what you put in. So inbreeding, line breeding, interchangeable terms, depending on who you ask or what you're talking about. But if you have bad on bad, it gets worse. So if we're talking about inbreeding is usually used in a negative connotation. We've stacked in 3 shots of bad and we got worse, right? And that's terrible. Now a bull like Dai-10 Mitsumaru, who's proven to produce cattle like Big Al, like Katie LaRue, so on and so forth, like Hikari, like Kunisaki, that bull we want as much of as we can get. And so getting a triple bred Dai-10, there's blessed few of these in existence, plain and simple. And to have a female like that is die 10 on die 10 on die 10, you know exactly what you're going to get. So you're talking about a higher degree of predictability because, frankly, there's less genes to pass on. It's not a case of like, well, is she going to breed like her mother or kind of like her grandmother or kind of like her sister, or all of which are way different. Like, well, they're all kind of functionally the same because her sire, her grandsire, and her great-granddam are all die 10s.
Yeah.
And so... I guess I should say her sire, her grandsire, and her granddam are all die 10s. And so you know what you're going to get with a female like that. And then that bull calf being sired by Tama LaRue is going to bring in an outcross on the top side there. And so that gives you a full-blood AWA registered again bull calf in that setting. And that'd be one of those I'd anticipate somebody's going to get a buy there. That's a young bull calf.
Yeah.
And so I would say, if you're looking for a scenario where it's like, look, I can probably get this bull bought pretty reasonable. Again, he's going to be delivered for free, included in the purchase price. And now I've got something that is nothing but straight foundation imports in the pedigree. And he's going to take care of breeding my cows without gathering them up, without putting them in the chute, without doing AI, without doing ET, without burning the last 60 days consecutive trying to breed cattle. This is an easy and cheap, should be a pretty cost-effective way to get that done.
Can you count to 5?
Yes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Nope, 3, 5.
No, 3, 4, 5.
No, 3, 5.
No, 3, 4, 5.
No, 3, 5.
No, 3, 4, 5.
3, 5 is when the auction is. 3, 4, 5 are numbers. Do you know how people get to the auction? They have to get online and go to gotanycows.com. By when?
By 3, 5.
By 3, 5. Great.
The next thing on the list is going to be a homozygous polled bull. And so, the homozygous polled gene kind of first came on the scene with the Dos Equis bull. He brought $111,000 for half interest. I'd be willing to bet, I'd love it if this bull brought $111,000 for half interest, but I'd be willing to bet someone's going to get this bull bought for under that. The 3365 bull is a homozygous polled individual. He's going to be an outcross to most everything out there in the polled Akaushi gene pool. So most polled Akaushi are going to have at least one shot of King David in him, if not multiple. He'd be the most common denominator and a wonderful bull, one that we've used extensively. He'd be the sire of Davy Crockett, polled Queen 88, so on and so forth. But the 3365 bull is unique in the sense that not only is he homozygous polled, but he's entirely unrelated. Also going to be a really good calving ease prospect. So if somebody has heifers that need bred, especially if you've got polled heifers, I would say that's the ideal buyer for that bull. If somebody has polled purebred Akaushi heifers and is trying to figure out what to breed them to because they're related to most everything in the polled purebred marketplace or in the gene pool, and they don't want to deal with any horns, and they'd like to get to that homozygous polled level, this is the bull to do it. And or if you're somebody that doesn't have any polled cattle and all of your animals are horned and we're looking to get rid of them and get rid of them every time, that's the difference between a homozygous polled bull and a heterozygous polled bull. A homozygous polled bull has 2 copies of the gene. He can only sire polled calves. Like, it does not matter what you breed him to, they will not have horns. So if someone's looking for a homozygous polled bull that is an outcross to the population, you don't want horns, and or you'd like to get towards having homozygous polled calves, is going to be a great option. I'd be willing to bet be slightly under $111,000 for half interest. Yeah. So anyway.
Well, there's not a lot of places you can go to get a homozygous polled bull, let alone one with his type of breeding. There's
Right.
Not
a lot of options. Yeah. Yes. If somebody wants a homozygous polled bull, very few places you can go to get one. And so kind of a neat option there. The next thing we'll jump to, crossing breeds here. Going back to the original Black Angus.
Oh no!
Going back to the Black. They're great cattle. Paid a lot of our bills for a long time. John and I both have dealt with a pile of Angus and a pile of Akaushi. We both love Akaushi.
The Angus are still good.
That's always the joke that John and I have anytime I breed one that's going to be black. I'm putting a black one in here. You're going to be disappointed. John is a proponent of the Akaushi, no doubt, and for good reason. They're wonderful cattle. They've been great to us. Going to this Angus bull. So 3346. You will be pleased with how the bull is bred. Do you remember the day we first saw Ripper?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What a butt.
What a butt. Look at that butt. Quite a video.
Never heard anyone swoon over a bull's butt more than you that day. So
I feel like I say the angle this is taking makes me sound really odd really fast, but
you're pretty odd.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. So, yeah, so Ripper, I mean, if you're talking, just going back to, selecting that bull. So this bull, I should mention that the bull that we're offering here is a son of Ripper. Mm-hmm. So going through.
And the Ripper calves have been awesome.
Oh, they're stout.
Yeah,
they
thick. Stick out.
They're good cattle. And that's one of those, going back to the day that we first saw him, they've gone through 3 different facilities. If you go to Billings, Montana, Billings is the mecca of bull studs, right? There's 3 of them right there. There's Joliet, Huntley, and Billings itself. There you got World West, you've got Hawkeye West, and you've got Origin. And between the 3, you can go through 300 or so of the world's best, all within a day or 2.
Yeah.
And so we did, and I've been in there and had seen them all and toured them all, and
most people can go through those in a few hours. Like with Seth, it's at least a day or 2. And it's like,
I got to know which one's best.
There's 300 bulls there. There's probably 500 videos taken. It's
burn the battery on one phone. Got to go charge the phone.
There's a reason Haley doesn't go with you anymore to those things.
That's true. I've worn my wife out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But and Ripper, it was cool because we didn't go there to see Ripper. We went there to see all these other bulls.
Yeah,
and it was kind of the tour guy there. I remember him like, "Oh, I got a bull you guys need to see." Or heard the bull? And we're like, "No, what's this Ripper bull? What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Oh, I got a bull to show you." So we go over there, and that's when he knocked your socks off. Just blew you away with when we saw him. He was super impressive.
Oh, yeah, and that's the thing, the thing that's interesting going through those studs and touring all those cattle is that I think a lot of times people will kind of have it in their head that because a bull's an AI stud bull, like, oh, he must be good. Like, he's an AI stud bull. And a lot are in different ways. Maybe they got great EPDs or a great pedigree or whatever else it may be. But when you get there and look at the bulls, there's a lot that are pretty lackluster that you wouldn't be excited to see in person.
You wouldn't breed with in person, like
and that's why we went. Go through those cattle and understand what they are and what they aren't. And Ripper's just one of those. Like if you just hucked all the papers out the window and just went to look at bulls, there was just no question.
No.
You know what I mean? Like there wasn't anything else that ran with him. And so this 3346 bull, the thing that makes him really unique too is that not only is he a Ripper, which would be probably my all-time favorite bull as far as just looks, just muscle, just mass, just power. The only bull that I'd really put in the same category right with him as far as just sheer looks, muscle, mass, power.
Resource.
Yep. That's exactly right. And 33...
he's a pretty common, popular bull.
People done a wonderful job for a long time. Yep. Yeah, been really good, really proven. And the dam of 3346 is a full sister in blood to Resource. And so you're stacking... The Ripper being the most expressively muscle bull I've ever seen, right over Resource.
Yeah.
Being, right there with them as far as super expressive muscled and a great bull. And the 1051 cow is perfect uddered, beautiful to see. She's the cow. If people walk in, come looking at Angus, that's the cow they find. Super, super impressive female. And she's the dam of 3346. And so we are going to offer... in the auction, we and this is another one of those things, I'm always trying to find things we can offer that are a fit for the people I talk to all day, every day. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel or be different just to be different. I'm trying to offer different things because people ask for different things.
Yeah.
And even things as far as thinking through what do people need and what the very most common scenario for people breeding beef cows in the U.S. is you've got maybe 25 cows or so. It's very, very normal. It's by far and away the most common in the U.S. statistically. And if you've got 25 cows, you've got one bull. And if you've got one bull and you retain any any daughters at all out of that bull, you've got 2 years. You can use the bull for a year. The following year, his first daughters are born. You use the bull for another year. The following year, his first daughters need to be bred.
Yeah.
And so now your options are either A, you have purchased a bull for, quite often a significant amount of money, and he has to move on after 2 years when he's still perfectly sound and capable of breeding, or you need to find a different option. And so the 2-year lease option is one that we actually just started offering within the last year or two, and started to offer just a little bit private treaty initially is what we've done. We've started to roll out more and more of that and offer more of that option. And the reason being, a 2-year lease gets you, number one, our bulls are produced in our ET program. So you're getting bulls that are the best of the best, right? These are not throwaways. These aren't just, cleanup side or not even just AI side. These are ET bulls. A lot of these are going to be siblings to bulls that have gone to stud and have sold to companies like Alta and Gen X. But to have bulls like this, available to you without having to spend an arm and a leg to get them.
Yeah.
They come with free nationwide delivery included. You get to run them for 2 years, and then we pick the bull up. And so instead of spending a pile, having to figure out how to ship a bull, and then 2 years later I got to spend a pile again to go buy another bull and then sell this perfectly good breeding bull, usually for slaughter, you're just paying for the use of the bull. So you're getting a way better price on a way better bull. He shows up. When you're done with him, he leaves. Another one comes in. And it's been a really, really valuable option for the people we've offered it to. So we're going to offer that in an auction setting. Here, we're going to offer a 2-year lease on the 3346 bull. So for anybody that is looking to add muscle or mass or power to your Black Angus cattle, he'd be the bull to do it. Use him for 2 years, and then he comes back. And he'll continue in the program here. So that's what he would be.
Great. Well, and one thing you said, about trying to meet other people's needs.
Yeah.
If you have a need of something different, then talk to Seth too.
Right.
I mean, just this year we've had people ask for the smallest bull in the herd, which it's like you go out in that pasture, you're like, why would anyone ever want to breed with that bull? And then what do you know? Joe Schmo from down the road, it's like, oh, I want the smallest bull you have.
Right.
And then we have other people that want, we want the biggest cows. What can make it someone. We really do try to service everybody on the full spectrum.
Right.
And you can meet about anyone's needs for
whatever
whatever type of cow they have, whatever size of cow they want, whatever their target is. I feel like you've done a good enough job of selecting animals that we can fit any of those needs.
Sure.
And if not, then you're willing to figure out what you got to do to help people. So.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. Like if somebody... I would very much appreciate, like, if anybody listening to this is thinking, like, hey, I wish Seth would offer this.
Yeah.
Or I wish Seth would offer that. Or, like, man, please let me know. Because, I mean, that's how these things come to be. That's how the aspirations came to be offered, was that they were asked for.
Yeah.
That's how the recip option on the aspirations came to be, that they were asked for. The 2-year leases. I had people telling me, man, I hate selling these perfectly good bulls, but I can only use them 2 years.
Right.
That's how the 2-year lease came to be, And so my goal here, I mean, this is the business that feeds our families, and I appreciate that. I appreciate the support that people provide us. I want to provide value, for everybody that provides value to us.
Yeah.
And so that's the target there. So 2-year lease sells on him.
Well, if we keep everyone else in business, then they should keep us in business.
Yeah, that's pretty well how it works. Yeah. Yep. The next option is going to be just a spring lease. The following lot is going to be on the 0097 bull. So he's a Hereford bull. So right now, I mean, and this one comes around, even just taking a look at the big picture on the cattle industry right now. Cattle numbers are at the lowest numbers they've been. I think the last stat I saw was in 61 years since it was this small as far as the national cow herd. Like, we are short on cows, and there's still no sign of heifer retention occurring. And so when people talk about, like, well, we need to build our herd back up, or we need to get our numbers back up, the ideal cow, I mean, if you ask any commercial cattleman in the West, like, what's the ideal commercial cow? Like, oh, I love a black baldy cow. Like, oh man, love a black baldy cow. So 0097 is a Hereford bull. We're offering a spring lease on him. The unique thing about 0097 is his dam is a full sister to the $600,000 Miles McKee. She is a female that I selected after looking for years for a Hereford female that would last. I wanted a Hereford female that had a perfect udder, perfect teats, perfect feet, expansive rib, excellent fleshing ability, and a production record where she calved back to back on time. She didn't come up late. She didn't come up open. And that's what the dam 1315 is, the dam of 0097. That's what she did. The sire of 0097 is Blueprint. Blueprint is going to be a proven calving ease bull in the Hereford breed. And so what makes this bull unique with that spring lease option is you say, you know what, I can bring this bull in, I can put him on cows and or heifers, and we're going to make those baldies. And those bull calves are going to gain a little quicker with that hybrid vigor to them and having a little bit of heterosis to push them along and give you some added pounds of weaning weight to sell because the market's sky high.
Yeah.
And those females are going to be the keeping kind. Your crossbred females, there's data up the wazoo on crossbred females lasting longer, on crossbred females breeding better, on crossbred females weaning heavier calves. And so all signs point to it's a great time to sell some extra pounds. So let's cross to a Herf here.
Yeah.
And it's a great time to be holding females. So let's cross to a Herf here. So that's the next lot is a Hereford bull spring lease.
I think just on bull leases in general, I think a lot of people are scared of, well, I'm leasing a bull, I don't know what's his demeanor going to be like. I think people get scared of that. I mean, all of our bulls are mellow and easy to handle.
Yep.
You don't need to be scared of their temperament.
Right.
He's super easy. I mean, great handle, slow.
Yeah.
But all of our bulls are, because if they're not, then we nut them and turn them into steers.
Yeah, they get nutted or they get sent straight to pound. I mean, when these bulls come in every fall, same deal like we were talking on the recips. Recips come in, we're looking at them one at a time. If the bulls come in, if there's any report from the person using them that they were bad, they're gone.
Yeah.
If you tell me like, hey, this bull was a turd to deal with, he's gone. If I'm out in the pen and a bull looks at me wrong, he's gone. Like there's no mercy in this kind of a deal. Like, there's not like, oh, well, he's neat or he's cool or he's good. Like, no, like he's safe to be around or he's hamburger.
Right.
And so that's and I'm proud of that. You know what I mean? Like if people are going to place their confidence in us and lease a bull here, they can know the bull's going to be number one, he's produced in the ET program. Number two, he's never given us a lick of trouble or else he'd be dead.
Yeah.
And number three,
and it's a short string. They're
really I'm not giving them a pile of extra chances, and so just that people are going to be able to get that degree of genetic quality and demeanor. At the price point they are, and we trick test them. They never go direct ranch to ranch. They all come here. They're trick tested. They pass a breeding soundness exam. So we're not looking at disease issues that people ask about. Not an issue. Disposition issues that people ask about. Not an issue. If any of those ever were to appear, the bull would be hamburger.
And we've been leasing bulls for years and years now.
It's a proven program. Yeah, absolutely. Anything else you'd throw in there on the Herefords or on the Bullies program or on that individual?
I think that covers it pretty good.
Yeah, I think we're pretty well there. The next two lots are the aspirations that I'd mentioned. And we're going to offer again both an Akushi or Red Wagyu aspiration as well as an Angus aspiration. And both of those come with the option on 5 recips each. And so if a person decides, hey, I want, and the reason, I mean, that number 5, we're going to do the same thing as far as an embryo guarantee. So, I mentioned the buyer of the last aspiration got 15, so got triple the guarantee. We're going to guarantee you get 5 embryos. So you're not going to spend a bunch of money and not get any embryos, which it's not how it works if you buy a donor. You can go buy a donor, spend a pile of money, truck her across the country, bring her home, take her in, she makes no embryos, you still get a bill. In this setting, buying an aspiration, we're going to guarantee you get those 5 embryos. The reason for that number is normal IVF success rates, 40%. Like for people that when you're running your math and you're figuring out like, hey, what's this going to turn into? 5 embryos, 40% makes 2 pregnancies. Statistically, you've got a bull and a heifer. Most people are after a heifer, but either or, you should have one of each, even using conventional semen, or you can use sexed semen and get 2 of the desired sex. But we're taking it a step further and saying if you want, you have an option on our recips, and you can purchase those as a confirmed pregnant recip.
Well, that'd be great. That'd be able to clean up our recips, I think.
All right, we don't have that many. We don't have that many left, and so I'm gonna provide that option. You know what I mean? We have got made what we need. We still have excellent quality females there. That we know and trust and have, like I said, all documented up the wazoo. They're going to be good mannered. They're going to be the right age. What their production history is, their vac history. Yep. I mean, there aren't better recips. If there were, we'd have bought them. Frankly, you know what I mean. Like we don't. We have sourced recips from 32 different ranches in the past. We source only from the top 4 because we track everything about them. So these are better recips, plain and simple. Like I mentioned, or like we've talked about, we get better success. We've gotten extremely good success rates, this year. And so that's what's letting us offer, an option on some of these recips. We don't need every one of them. So,
well, that's a great deal for people.
Yeah,
it honestly is.
We're doing it all.
So
We're literally doing it all. Like we put out the money for the donor.
Yep.
We do all the feed and management of the donor. We handle hauling her in. We aspirate her. We handle getting the embryos into the cows. Yep. Like the job's done. So 2 different aspirations. One is going to be on the 30K female. Okay. 30K is a female I really appreciate coming around to talking about being real. You know what I mean? So she's a Cuniasso maternal line female. And so she's AWA registered. So she's got that going for her as far as like, this is what the papers say. You know what I mean? Like she's got the AWA paper and the Cuniasso maternal line, but the female is real. Like if you go out and look at her in the pen, she's impressive. This is a big, tall, stretchy female, got a lot of size, a lot of frame. If someone's looking for added growth, she's got that. Perfect udder on the female, excellent mother, calved unassisted, bred snappy, calved at the front end of the group, bred snappy again right behind that. So this is a really fertile female. And so for me, when I look at what do I expect the cow to do? Number one, I mean, and this is aside from just the pedigree or the EPDs. Number one, I expect them to be easy to be around. 30K is manageable to be around. I expect them to be fertile. She has bred up right away every time we throw a straw of semen at her. We expect the calving ease to be there. I don't want to have to pull a calf out. We didn't have to do that. I expect them to be a good mother. We don't want to have to pair them up. We didn't have to do that. Expect her to do a good job raising that calf, have ample milk. She's doing a good job with that. Has a nice heifer calf at side. And she has jumped all those hoops. And so this is a female I'm very confident in. Yeah. And somebody buying that aspiration, and then they may or may not choose to make use of the recip option. I would encourage them to. I think it makes sense. But anyway, neat female there. The parallel to her in the Angus side is the full sister to Resource, the full sister in blood to Resource. So her sire being Rito 7075, her dam being SAV Black Cat May 8980, who made Pathfinder status in the Schaff Angus Valley herd in North Dakota. And she'd be a full sister to the $10 million producer, SAV Black Cat May 4136. And then 1051 in her own right, even if you just huck the papers out the window, that's a stout cow. Plain and simple. Strong top, deep side, a lot of width to base, excellent attachment to the udder, perfect sized teats. This is an impressive cow. You know, I mean, if somebody comes and doesn't want, neither knows or cares about papers, they just want really cool cows, 1051's that. And so she is going to be the option offered on the Angus side as far as an aspiration. We're getting late enough now. I'll just buzz quick a couple of highlights, and these are probably what are most likely to, we'll have added lots or some lots removed or some things like that. I do want to make sure to mention at least a couple of the kind of feature type lots specifically. We are going to have on the semen side specifically, we'll have a good, excellent selection of embryos. We're going to have Akaushi embryos. We'll have polled Akaushi embryos. We'll have full-blood AWA Akaushi embryos. We'll have Angus semen, Angus embryos, but a couple of the Akaushi semen lots that I'm excited about would be the initial release of female sexed semen on Star-Lord. We have not offered that for use anywhere else. We have not offered any for sale. Star-Lord, I mean, putting our money where our mouth is, Star-Lord is our high use AI sire in 2024/5, the December-January breeding season we've just completed. If we have a full-blood AWA heifer we're breeding, we're going Star-Lord female sexed semen. We're just inordinately confident in the Katie Maru cow. Anybody that wants to say whatever else about her or what she is or what she isn't or what they think, come see the cow.
Yeah.
Come see the cow and tell me she isn't great.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Plain and simple.
Come pet the cow.
Come pet the cow. No kidding.
Don't just see it. Come pet her.
Pet the cow. Yeah.
Give her a shot out in the pen.
I'll have Jacob throw in, we just did a little bit of B-roll just today, just now, pet the cow.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's we were just out there filming with her, and anyway, super neat female. She's the dam of Star-Lord. And so with female sexed semen, we're looking to make more cows like her. The old cowboy saying is that a bull will breed daughters like his dam. And so if the daughters of Star-Lord are anything like Katie Maru, this is the kind of cow you want, plain and simple. Yeah. So Star-Lord female sexed semen, this will be the initial release there, so kind of fun to do something like that. And again, a bull that's not available on the open market. And we have never before offered female sexed semen on Star-Lord. So we're going to offer a single straw, with the goal being that's for an IVF application. You can stretch that semen a long ways, make a lot of embryos if you so choose. I'm excited to see where this goes and who buys it, but definitely something worth looking at. Female sexed semen on Star-Lord. The conventional semen, the initial release we're going to do, again, a single straw semen lot with the intent being for an IVF application, is the Guapo bull, Guapo 3352. Very excited about this bull. Again, talking about the homozygous polled gene pool, or just the polled Akaushi gene pool at large. Most all of it has King David in it, and or you may have to give up something to get outside of that King David pedigree. And what I mean by that would be the King David cattle are so good, quite often you get an outcross and we're saying, well, we're having to give up. Maybe they're not quite as thick or as stout, or they don't grow quite as quick or whatever else as the King Davids do. Guapo is a cool bull. You know, I mean, if you go walk the bulls down there and we're looking through them and we huck the papers out the window and we just go find bulls. Yep. Every time I drive down there, the bull I find is 3352, which would be Guapo. This Guapo 3352. He'd be an El Padrino grandson on the top side coming down through a bull that Aaron Cooper owns called 8117F. So 8117F on the top side be a 3132nd hetero polled purebred. 583 on the bottom side of this pedigree would be a full sister to the 577 donor that has done us so much good here. A prolific embryo producer, super thick, stout, impressive cattle, great mannered. That's another cow that you can pet in the pen. And so and she is going to be a 197F daughter, so a Sisho daughter, so Slater breeding on the bottom side there. Going back again to some Rancho Espuela breeding. Shout out to my good friend Jim Dyer. He's done a wonderful job breeding those cattle. The dam, so I guess the grand dam of Guapo would be a daughter out of the 2536A bull, which would be a full brother to the Rushaw Triple X bull at Legendary. So really neat pedigree on Guapo, homozygous polled. Outcross pedigree, no King David in it, backed by full sister to one of our Keystone donors, sired by an outcross hetero-polled bull that's thick and stout and impressive in his own right. Aaron Cooper is an opinion I trust, and Aaron Cooper is high on that 8117F bull. So a neat opportunity here for somebody to buy a straw of homozygous polled semen, use it in an IVF setting, make a bunch of calves. He's a bull we're confident in. We have used here as well inside of our ET program. This is the initial offering. So there's never been a shot at that bull prior. So those would be some really unique things. As always, there's going to be a lot of different embryo lots that are, and there's great buys to be had. I mean, there were some excellent buys in this last auction. So eyes open on those. I'd encourage people to, again, get on early, bid often, most importantly, bid last, be there when it closes March 5th at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. But those semen lots would be unique. In addition to all these others we've gone through, the aspirations, the bred heifer, the bulls, the leases, kind of a fun offering across the board. And I just encourage people to take advantage of it. There will be buys to be had. I know there will be, there's every time there's something that gets run higher than expected, but every time there's stuff that sells cheaper than I would have priced it privately. And so do yourself a favor, get on there, get it bought, and or, get the front edge on some of these things like Guapo and Star Lord. That is the next generation of homozygous polled genetics in our program and the next generation of full blood genetics in our program. If you want to say, if somebody calls me up, so Seth, what out of all these different options, all these different neat things, what are you using? Guapo and Star Lord, is what we're using here. And so if you want to know what I think, hop on those bulls and get that initial release. Yep. So that would be kind of at least a brief overview on some of the highlights on this auction. It's going to be March 5th, 6 p.m. Mountain. The full link is cgauction.givesmart.com, but we will have a link on the gotanycows.com website. That'll be up on the light box there when you first get to the site. And looking forward, again, to working with people on these auctions. These are always fun.
Well, great. 3-5.
3-5. That's the day. Not 3-4-5.
Not 3-4-5. 3-5.
3-5. 3-5. That's the day. I appreciate you letting me yak at you about all of it and getting all these cattle produced. All the heifers, all the bulls, the donors, the sires, all the above. Everything that's there for me to offer is there because you take care of all of them. So I'm grateful for what you do there.
Yeah. No. You help a lot too. So you're paying the bills. So.
Well, whenever I'm not playing computer games or napping.
Yeah.
That's the last thing I would throw in there quick. Just thinking about there are a lot of people that will end up waiting to hear back from me, and I've mentioned it before, but it bears mentioning again. I will get back to people. Like if they reach out and I may not get back to you quickly. Yeah. My phone is usually backlogged. It depends on the day or the moment in time, but anywhere from just a couple on up to 20, 30, 40, 50 calls, texts, emails, messages I'm trying to get back to at any point in time. I would love to get back to everybody right away, immediately, 100% of the time. It is physically impossible. Yeah. So I will get back to you. It just may take a second. Please be patient. Shoot me a text, and I'll get back to you just as soon as I get a free second.
Yeah, at least if you want to talk about cows.
Right. Yeah, if you want to talk about anything else, I don't know. It may be weeks or months. You know.
Yeah, you were thanking me about talking about cows with you, and I'm like, Well, if we're not talking about cows, we're probably not talking. So, if people are wanting to call and talk to you about cows, and you can't answer, you'll call them back and talk about cows with them for sure.
Yeah, I'll talk about cows. I'll talk about cows. Yeah. No, perfect, buddy. Appreciate you recording with me.
No, thanks for the people listening and making it possible for us to keep doing what we're doing.
You bet, buddy. You bet. Well, thanks again. Yep. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Got Any Cows podcast. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. And visit us anytime at gotanycows.com.